Hi, Elle Ingalls back here with our leadership series, and I'm so happy to have someone who actually lives in the same city that I do. Michelle Steffes is here, and Michelle and I met years ago. We were both speakers at a conference and have just loosely stayed connected. And I'm so glad that I reached out to you, Michelle. I'm so glad to have you on the show because you do some really, really great work, not just with adults, but you wrote a children's book. And I'm just excited for you to share with our audience what you've been up to. So, welcome, Michelle.
Well, thank you, Elle. It's an absolute honor to be with you today and to talk about my favorite topic and yours, leadership.
Yes.
I love it. So, yes, I truly enjoyed meeting you, Elle, a while back, and I've followed you for quite some time, and you always offer some great nuggets. So, I hope to, at least get equal to you today to some degree. But we've got some great stuff to share, and I'm going to share a little story too. But I want to start out with one of my favorite quotes. Actually, this quote, I believe you can run your business by, you can lead by, you can run your life by, and it's a game changer. And it's by Theodore Roosevelt. And it's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I want you to think about the last time you were in a situation where, maybe it was an employer leadership type relationship, or maybe it was a relationship with somebody that you're related to. And those times when they truly showed they cared about you probably stick pretty good in your memory. And they seem to be something that maybe was even revolutionary to some degree in terms of their ability to influence you, because that's what I want to talk about today is what it takes to influence. What is a heart-centered leader? I've listened to a lot of teachers on leadership over the years, and I've always kind of been, magnetized to the same type philosophy. And that is, if you're not leading from the heart, like you truly care or love the people that you lead, you cannot possibly influence them. So you might be saying to yourself by now, well, how in the world can I love everybody on my team? Some of them are really annoying. And I agree, we never know what we're getting into, right? When we hire somebody, where it's always kind of like, you go through the same scenario all of us do, where you have your chosen resumes that seem to be good. And, you can even call in their references. But then once you get them in place, you kind of wish they would have came with like, consumers warning labels, maybe like warning this person thrown to fits of rage or absentees or whatever, but we don't know what we're getting into because it's people. And one of my favorite mantras is it's always about the people. If we can learn to empower and equip our people, then that's when we can bring about total change in our culture. So I'm going to tell you a quick little history of me. First of all, I've been in leadership now for 25 years, actually a little bit over that. So I'm kind of giving my age away, but and I've had a chance to lead many organizations and build 5 businesses from ground up. And as Elle had mentioned, I've written 2 books. I've got Reframe and Rewire, Greatness Through Daily Routine, or if you like the word habits better, that's fine, because really it's about the same thing. And my most recent release, The Machine Inside Me, which is written for 7 to 14, because of my heart and passion for us to lead our children out of the despairing, hard times that they're dealing with right now. And I'll get into that more later, but I want to go ahead and walk forward with a little bit more information on me. Now, I founded IPV Consulting about actually a decade ago this month. So 10 years old, celebrating 10 years
Wow.
today.
Celebration, Michelle.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I'm
fabulous.
excited. Have had a chance to work, like I say, with a lot of leaders, but also with a lot of entrepreneurs. I am an executive coach. I am a podcaster. So I have a podcast called Reframe and Rewire on multiple platforms. It is global. I've got over 100,000 downloads on that. So you can look me up there. And I've also have a group called IPV Leadership Mastery, which takes leaders through a process, a progression process together, coordinated between the leaders to grow internally and externally. And that leads me to my next point. I don't believe, and I've told this to many audiences that I've gotten in front of, I don't believe we can just teach, exterior things like leadership, time management, all that kind of stuff, unless we teach internal management.
Yeah.
Because you can be, say, the best, maybe you can have a master's degree in leadership and you can have all the head knowledge you want. But if inside you're struggling, you're beating yourself up all the time, you're having a lot of doubts, it comes across as insecurity and it removes from your ability to influence. Okay. So when I talk about heart-centered leadership, I'm not just talking about how you treat others. I'm talking about how you treat yourself, because I believe it's a 50-50 balance. I really do. It's not 80-20. It's not 60-40. You have to be able to stay cohesive within yourself, and to be able to manage internal dialogue as well as external dialogue, because it will come across in your body language, your countenance, and everything. So in
Yeah.
2005, I was asked to launch a very large nonprofit. It had over 20 internal departments, and I was going to end up with about 100 on the team. So roughly 50 volunteers and 50 team members. And when I came into the organization, I was there for a total of 7 years. At the beginning, I was told, please stop the bleeding. I got sat around the table with like 8 executives, and they were all just very concerned about what was going on. There was a lot of discord. There was a lot of mismanagement going on. It had caused silos, turf wars, strife. I mean, you know the whole drill, right? It was a mess. It was just a mess. And I think most of you know as leaders that when your environment or your culture is a mess, it affects the profit line, it affects attendance, it affects people, being able to do a job safely, to do it accurately. I mean, a number of these variables are affected at varying degrees depending on where the severity is. So anyway, I knew I had my work cut out for me. So I knew I couldn't do it alone, because a leader is only as good as their team. So I started the interview process, as we mentioned a moment ago. I went through the resumes, I narrowed it down to 5. I had a deadline picked out. And just as I was about to make a decision, I had another candidate come forward. But there's an important piece of this I need to mention. I put them all through a 3-interview process, and they all did great. And many of them were qualified, but there was something missing with all the candidates. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but I knew something was missing. So basically, I wanted to bring in this other guy, but since another one came in that seemed, right with me, I decided to extend the deadline out and give him a chance. So I put him through the 3-interview process, and he not only answered all the questions brilliantly, he was never really as concerned about his benefits, his pay, or his position as much as the team. In fact, every question he answered was about the team. It was, what about the team? How can we empower the team? What tools will I be, given to empower and equip the team and help them to win? He just kept going back to that again and again. And then it dawned on me, what was missing from all the other applicants was this genuine heart desire to empower others. He truly had a heart-centered mindset. Now, Elle, I don't know if you've ever encountered anything like that, but it was remarkable in the beginning.
Wow. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, I brought him on, and in the first 3 months, he performed very well. He exceeded my expectations. He was getting along with all the team members. The executive management liked him. His presentations were remarkable. It was very good. However, in that 3 months, which I always gave him 3 months, probation, and that in the very end of the 3 months, he started making some pretty drastic mistakes. In fact, they were so drastic that I would have had every right to let him go at that point, because it was right out there and everybody saw it. And so my way was to always kind of get to the bottom of the matter and hear the other side first.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm afraid in our world today, we've gotten so busy and so preoccupied with accomplishing tasks, we don't always stop to really hear the other side. Well, I'm glad that I did, because what happened was he began to spill out all the things in his personal life that I never knew when I went to hire him, which is why the consumer's warning label would have been great. And what I found out is that right before hiring him, he was in his mid-30s. He had 2 daughters. He had just gone through this horrible, tumultuous divorce. And his ex-wife and him were just constantly at ends with each other. It was a mess. It was affecting him. He wasn't sleeping at night. He was coming in disheveled. He had bags under his eyes, and he was acting weird. And especially in that last period of those 3 months. And what I found out was, his parents had got involved. Now he wasn't getting along with his parents. So his whole world was crumbling around him, right, even though, he had a new job. And it was because he was drinking too much to deal with it. So that's why he was behaving this way. So I wasn't quite sure what to do at this point, but I knew I still loved his heart. I loved, his passion for people. And I felt like he was worth a shot. So I went to the executive leaders. I told them what I'd like to do. They said yes. And so when he came back the next day, And, I told him, I said, look, just, go on home and we'll come back and talk next day. He came back in and I started going through the list of all the reasons I loved his work and who he was and why I hired him. And as I'm telling him this list, he's kind of sinking down in his chair because, he's thinking he's going to get, he doesn't know what's going to happen at this point, but he's feeling very guilty for not having measured up. Right. And I could tell that he was willing to do anything at that point. So I said, look, Andre, if you'll do 3 things, I will give you 3 more months. Number 1, I want you to let me appoint you a mentor, someone that can come alongside of you and hold you accountable in your personal life, be there to talk to and keep you in check, because I'm going to be checking in with that mentor frequently. Number 2, I need you to let me mentor you here at work. Okay. So that means that you're going to come in pressed, dressed, looking sharp, ready for work, no bags under the eyes, getting enough sleep, measuring up to the expectations here. And number 3, I need you to let me go ahead and walk with you as you launch the vision that we put together at the beginning of this and impart it to every single member of the team. If you can do those 3 things, you can have 3 months. I watched him as he sat back up in his chair, tears literally rolling down his face. And he said, I can't believe you're giving me another chance. Thank you so much. I will not let you down. And I said, don't worry about me. Don't let you down. Wow. So for the next 3 months, he not only did everything that I had asked him to do in the 3 conditions, but as I poured into him and let him make little mistakes and stay accountable and watch him progress in it, and not come down hard on him and give him opportunity and believe in him and pour into him, he started doing the same to the team, pouring into them, believing in them, giving them chances to show their best. And I'm telling you, this man completely evolved into a different person. And it was so interesting because I watched as the entire team started fist bumping and high-fiving each other in the hallway, saying one team, one fight. They were all coming together. It was like contagious. So I have to ask you, Elle, and your audience a question to consider. Have you ever had someone believe in you? I mean, truly believe in you?
Yeah.
Maybe a coach, a mentor, a sibling, a teacher, a parent.
Yeah.
When they believed in you, what were you able to do?
It was, I mean, for me personally, the first person that comes to mind is my first, and I'll come on gallery here, my first conducting professor at the University of Michigan. He brought me in his office and he said, you have what it takes to be an orchestral conductor. And this is from my very first beginning conducting.
That's awesome.
What he didn't know was that since the age of 4, that's what I wanted to be. So he believed in me so much. And I can remember him actually pushing me into the green room after a concert where the conducting professor who runs the master's program was, for me to tell him what I wanted to do. So Michigan had never had a woman in ever in that program.
That's wow. What an opportunity.
So that was my junior year in college. He then mentored me, the other professor mentored me so I could create my own program so I could take graduate level conducting courses as an undergrad. Wow. And then it took me 2 full years of working in banks, in restaurants, whatever, playing in symphonies every night, and literally studying score after score after score before I did it.
That is so cool.
And it was that belief.
That probably sent your life in a whole different direction, didn't it?
Totally different direction. Absolutely.
Yes, it'll launch people into positions and abilities and performance levels that can't even be imagined and can't be done any other way.
And then there's all those little decision points. What you're bringing up is like, there's the decision points. You could have let him go.
Yeah, I could have.
And
it would have been excused.
Yeah. And then some of them happen. I actually auditioned for the training orchestra in New York after my undergrad, right at my senior year. I was 4th on the waiting list, then 3rd, then 2nd. We're getting to August. You can't get an apartment in Ann Arbor if you don't figure that out, So I said, take me off the list.
Yeah.
That was another, okay, so then I'm going all in with this other thing.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be trained as a violinist now. I'm going to
Yeah,
continue that. I'm going to do this. So it's fascinating. But
that's
what a
incredible.
what an incredible story, and the
It
ripple effect.
is.
The ripple effect is
It is a ripple. I love that you said that. Ripple effect, so huge. There's a little bit more to the story I want to
yeah.
share that's going to kind of put the icing on the cake here. After that 3 months passed, okay, he had not only, and I checked in with his mentor, he had not only quit drinking, he was getting along with his ex-wife. Actually, they were civil to each other, and his parents. Now, here's the really weird part. I didn't expect this at all, but his parents came in my office. Now, remember, he's in his mid-30s. He's not a little kid.
Yeah.
His parents came into my office, and I had no idea why they were there. But I asked him to go ahead and be seated. How can I help you? And within the first 5 minutes, I knew exactly why they were there. They started to share the story about how they had prayed for him for years and watched him hit brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And they knew he had the potential, but he needed someone to believe in him. And what they wanted to do was come in and just thank the person that finally gave him a chance. And they had tears rolling down their face. So I knew where he got it from. And they were just, we were all like kind of bawling because, I realized in that moment that leaders have a privilege of influencing somebody's life in a way that nobody else can by
Yes.
getting behind. Now, whether we're talking about teachers, whether we're talking about leaders of organizations, or even a leader of your own family, when
Yeah.
you believe in somebody, it's hugely impactful. In fact, his mother sadly passed away that year, but
Wow.
not before she got to see her son rise to his fullest potential. So
Wow.
you never know what a difference you can make.
It's really
So
true. And how
it
much
is.
influence we have over people, both
We
positive and
do,
negative.
by believing in them. And in the world we're living in today, there's so much pressure and there's so much anxiety, and people are so consumed with division, what's different about us, they're forgetting how much we have in common. We all have a heart,
Mhm.
we all have emotions,
Yeah.
we all want to contribute back to something bigger than ourselves. I like to call it necessary significance. We all want to be encouraged, we all want to encourage other people, we all want to be empowered and valued for the talents we offer. We
Mhm.
all want to be a part of a win, just like a winning team. And if we can regain sight of that and really begin to impart that into our lives and our organizations and every person we influence, we can see a complete culture change. But we've got to shift the focus off of what's different about us and focus on what we have in common and begin to really give people a chance.
Mhm.
I think oftentimes the busyness of leadership life can steal away those opportunities. And I think just a gentle reminder, like our talk today or the series that you're doing, which is remarkable. I think it's much needed.
Thank you.
I think I've heard about some of the other speakers you had and the value that they bring.
Yeah.
And I hope that this really goes worldwide, Elle, because
Thank you.
it's these little things that we can do that make the biggest difference. Don't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And with
Yes.
it's what is interesting too is the resonance you might have with someone. Like
Mhm.
obviously that young man resonated with what you had to give him. And
Yeah.
that was incredibly powerful. You saw it and you went the extra mile. And it's reminding me of something that another speaker talked about is that you saw his strengths,
Hmm.
expanded his
Yes,
strength so that it could overcome what was going on for him in a really serious way.
absolutely. And now the opposite of that, it unfortunately is the more common response in the majority of we'll just say corporate America, but I know this is global, tends to do this where they'll bring them in the office and sit them in a chair, and they might have three executives there to start the intimidation factor, and they start with the, do this by this date. And they start with all of the ultimatums, right? Thinking that's going to fix it, right? But what happens when that occurs is a massive amount of cortisol hits the frontal cortex of the brain. And I think both of you and I knows this language. Okay. Maybe the audience, because they follow you, know it too. But then then it's going to shut down their ability to use their executive center and think straight. Not only that, but it's going to grip them with fear. They're not going to sleep at night. So that's going to affect their performance. They're going to have a ton of brain fog. They might even have some health issues. The cortisol is going to suppress the melatonin. So they can't sleep at night because now they're wiring in all these thoughts that are going to really expand the issue bigger. And their performance level, instead of going up like the leaders that confronted them wanted, they're going to see their performance go down. And then they're going to just high five each other, go, oh yeah, we made the right decision letting that guy go, man, he's nothing but trouble, or whoever it was, right? And that's and what they don't understand is that all that man or woman or person needed was someone to pour into them and equip them and give them a chance. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's fit for that, because I have a little phrase for that. If you can't change the people, change the people. Right.
Right.
So you give them a chance, right? You give them every a bit of empowerment and belief and backing that they need without shirking back, and allow them to make mistakes.
Right.
But realize that if you don't give them that chance, you'll never know what kind of performance. And we all know how much retention costs. It's a horribly expensive if you're constantly replacing leaders, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a situation once where I went to bat for this person so much. I had sent them to so much professional development in the symphony world. I had just gone over and beyond. And, it is oftentimes the personal life. In this particular case, this woman, there was a family member who passed away, and a memory came up for this person. And it just took them out.
Yeah.
And so they were missing work and then they came and attacked me. So I was like giving them every benefit of the doubt. I'm like, I'm not going to let this person go. I believe in them. I can do this. And then they went behind my back and went to the board, and then the board took them out. Like I didn't have a choice at that point.
Yeah, that's a sad situation there.
Yeah, but there was nothing I could do. At that point, at that level, when that went down, and then constant lawsuits. Then I had to deal with a whole bunch of lawsuits.
Oh, you had worst case scenario, and that does happen.
Yes.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah. It's unfortunate. And it's sad too, because that person will probably suffer trauma and then go on and carry that baggage into the next job and the next job.
And money, like the expense of the attorney for the person. Right. I learned, by the way, don't mess with the accident fund, because they tried to do a workers' comp. And they actually sent this woman, she claimed that if a donor came in to buy tickets, that the perfume was causing her asthma. Well, they actually sent her to John Glenn's pulmonary doctor. It's like, it's amazing. Like the whole the underbelly of all that stuff. There's a huge underbelly that I was completely unaware of until that situation happened. I never had anything like that happen in my career until then. So
it's a shocker.
It's fascinating,
It is. But people are, no matter your station in life, we're all fragile internally. And I love that you brought up again the importance of internal, because it really does. You cannot separate them. People go, well, leave your home at home and your work at work. That doesn't work that way. It's the whole being. And so I think you and I both have the same philosophy when we train and when we lead and when we present. We've got to let people realize, look, you got to work in here as well as out here, because just out here is never going to be enough.
Yeah.
And the more that companies can come to that realization and begin to treat the human side of needs, not just the work side, the better result they're going to have in the end. And loyalty, because anybody that is willing to hire a trainer that will come in and help somebody internally so their personal life is better, that is a huge investment that person will not take for granted.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten, performance surveys back where people are saying, you have no idea what you've done to my personal as well as professional life. I'm sure you had the same.
Yeah. I had a CEO who, one of the staff, was about 150 people in a financial institution. And one person came up and said, thank you so much for giving us something we could use at home and at work.
Yes. Exactly.
They're not separable as much as we try.
Mhm. It's not. And, I think they're starting to recognize it more, especially after the last 2 years. People are, because mental health is a big mess right now. And,
And people were working from home.
yes. And the suicide rate is unfortunately off the chart for kids, which was my passion for writing this book. And by the way, I'm distributing this into many organizations, women's shelters, homeless shelters, Dearborn Heights Police Department for kids of incarcerated parents, because I just want to get the word out. I want to see people rise up, and especially our next generation.
Yes, you're on a fabulous mission. It's so incredible. And thank you so much for sharing that story, because I think that everyone watching this has been in one of those situations, maybe on either side of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
understanding this heart-centered leadership is just a really beautiful theme.
It is. It's
Well,
so important. It
we
really
could
is.
talk for hours,
Oh,
Michelle.
we could. I know.
So
Well,
share, there's going to be a link down below here so that people can
okay.
get in touch with you. And I think you have
Fabulous.
something to share with them too. So
Yeah, yeah, I've got a couple gifts. I'm gonna let them access a handout on the Heart Centered Leader. It's a 2-page article explaining a lot and more what we just talked about, but also 10 ways to empower your team. So they'll get a chance to kind of get some ideas on what nuggets they can throw out to help their team to build up stronger.
it's really great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks for
Yeah,
being a
thank
part of this.
you.
I'm glad we were
I
able to connect
appreciate
and make
it.
it happen. And
Yeah,
so stay tuned, because we'll have another speaker for you tomorrow. And I wish
awesome.
you all a great pressure-free day.
Yeah, and don't forget, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
It's so
Thanks,
beautiful.
Al.
Thank you, Michelle.